Guess who? Guess who again? It's me, Gary Parrish. Welcome back to the Eye on College Basketball Podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do to that like button. Shouts to Brandon Davies. If you haven't yet subscribed to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel, I'll be honest, I don't even care. Don't subscribe.
Let's just go.
You know what? Don't subscribe at this point. I don't care. All right, let's get into it. This is what I'm told is our annual mega preview where we pick every single game in the bracket. Is that right, Norlander? Explain to me what we're supposed to be doing here before we get started.
First of all, this is classic Parrish right now. Yes, that is what we're doing. Every year we do it. Now the timing of this pod changes, and yes, this is a double pod Tuesday. I'm almost positive that if you're listening in on audio on your phone, you got our Tuesday CBS Sports Network show, and then a couple hours later, yes, this is two pods on the same day. But this one, by the way, hello, and to everyone that is listening to this show for the first time, maybe ever, do subscribe to the podcast and on YouTube, because this is also going into feeds across the network.
I'm tired of it.
Please find us.
No, don't subscribe. I'm tired of asking. All right, I've been asking 3 times a week since the beginning of the season. Every season for years.
And if you're not, no better time than now. Let's just mix up the script. How about we get some new language at the start of that show? And we just don't have this. We don't have the ask anymore. I say we change it up and we make it happen. Yes, we are going to pick. Parrish and I are going to give you this gorgeous bracket. Clean. This one's clean. I got mine here. Not too fast. Not going to give away. Mine's done. I also brought my 9-year-old son. Don't worry, we're not going to go through it. But he did this last night. He did this. He didn't even tell me he was doing it. He's got some bold, zesty, spicy picks. I posted it to Twitter. A bunch of mutants and cretins and a-holes are insulting my son's intelligence to no surprise whatsoever. People, get a life, okay? A kid decides to make a bracket, and you got to go after him. It's your absolute loser energy. Get over yourself. But a lot of people that understood the bit and what I was trying to do there, I appreciate you. I'll reveal a couple of my 9-year-old spicier picks before the end of the show.
In fairness, how smart is your son on a scale of 1 to 10?
He's pretty damn smart, actually. He's ahead where I was. I'll tell you that. That is a guarantee. Guarantee. Okay. Yeah.
My oldest definitely ahead of where I was. My little guys, I don't know about them so much. I don't know, but I do love that there's a world out there of people who can't wait to criticize your son's bracket.
I know, it's absolutely ridiculous. Of course, this is on Twitter. I posted it to Blue Sky. Nothing but good vibes there. Appreciate the folks on that side, and they support this.
Hey, in all seriousness, on the father-son stuff, does it ever make you proud? You said it did, so I'm gonna take you at your word. But expand on that. The first time you walk in on one, because I have examples of this. The first time you walk in and see one of your children experiencing something on their own that you introduced to them, that you care about this and you want it to matter to them, and you can force it on them all the time. I can always tell my kids, hey, come up here and watch this Mets game with me. But I love when I walk in the room and they've got it on. They turned it on themselves. I didn't even have to do it. Or I walk in the room and, my little guy is listening to an album that I also appreciate. He put that on. He decided to put that on Spotify. I love when I see them enjoying things on their own that I just really yearn for them to enjoy. And I bet your son filling out a bracket by himself is one of those moments.
Yeah, it's really cool. So we can get to the picture in a second, but the basic story behind this one is I brought some printouts home from after we did our Selection Sunday show at HQ, and I put one on the kitchen table. So Sunday night going into Monday. And then you might be able to identify this. I haven't been able to hang out with my children all that much lately. So I saw him a little bit yesterday, but then when he must have done it last night, but I didn't see it. And then I woke up this morning and we never talked about it. He had just filled it out. He had filled it out in full. And it's really, really cool. That's my older one. My younger one, if you want, to your point right now, he's wearing the Cassius Winston headband that Michigan State sent me the year they were, campaigning for Cassius Winston to be player of the year. That was the COVID year. And right before I came up to do the podcast, he said, Dad, how many teams play tonight? 38? I was like, it's actually just 4. But yeah, what time does the game start? It's about 6:30 or so. We'll get it going there. So it is really cool. To that point, both of them huge Beatles fans. I didn't, That we already are playing music. So yeah, it's awesome and super rewarding as a dad. I'd actually, if I had the time, I still have what I used to do. I used to take these big poster boards. I loved the tournament so much in high school and middle school. I would draw out the entire bracket. Ruler, had the exact measurements, and I've long wanted to do that with them, but the time, man, it's just end of early March. I literally would need like 3 hours uninterrupted to do that, and haven't had the chance to do it, but maybe next year.
I like you no longer really know my children, but back when I did, and I plan on meeting them again soon. But in all seriousness, a few weeks ago, we had this moment. My little guy came to me, similar thing. He had his iPad, and he said, "Hey, Dad, did you know that Kendrick played peekaboo at the Super Bowl for XXX Tentacion?" And I said, hold up. And so I don't even know, and then we talked about it, but I loved that that's what he was doing on YouTube, is looking at breakdowns of Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show. That's what I've been doing on YouTube. That's what I do when I have free time. And so
let's hope that the comparison stopped there, because we don't need to go down that Big Bang Challenge road. Okay.
So I love that he wanted to bring that conversation with me. When your kids start to automatically pick up on the things that you also care about, that's a sweet part of fatherhood. So I'm glad you got to have that moment, even if your son's bracket probably does stink.
I actually think he's going to destroy both of us. We'll keep track of this. I think he's going to beat both. This isn't tongue in cheek. He's got some spiciness here that I couldn't dare. He's at Troy over Kentucky. I can't even go down that road, but we'll see. Let's pick some games here. Let's dive into it. What region? And I think what we should do here, GP, is we'll go region by region. So we'll pick every single outcome up to the Final Four in the South and all around the board, as opposed to, okay, here are all the first round games. I think it's easier for the listener experience to go region by region. You want to go first?
Sure. Why not? I just did this on CBS Sports Network 30 minutes ago.
Did you?
Yes. I wish we could just take that, replay it here, and get on with our day. But here we are.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've got Auburn as the 1 seed. I've got Alabama State winning later tonight. We talked about this earlier on CBS Sports Network. Tony Madlock is the Alabama State head coach, 55 years old. He was in his 50s before he became a Division I head coach. It's sort of been locked into that label of lifetime assistant, perhaps, and yet he gets an opportunity. And now he's got Alabama State in the tournament. His son is his third leading scorer. Just couldn't be happier for Tony, A, to finally get the shot he deserved, and B, to be taking advantage of it. Either way, they're going to, even if they win, they're a 1,000,000-point underdog to Auburn. I'm going to take Auburn to not become the latest 1 seed to lose to a 16. I've got Louisville over Creighton, comparable teams. I think Louisville was underseeded, but will benefit from playing in Rupp Arena. I'll take Louisville over Creighton. Michigan over UC San Diego. I just think that's interesting. Big Ten tournament champ, literally the last team we saw play before the selection show, cut down nets, all that stuff, is in a game with the school that most people don't even know exist. And they're only like a 2.5, 3-point favorite. Little bitty line, but I do think Michigan gets by there. I've got Texas A&M over Yale. Then I guess we keep going down. I've got Ole Miss over San Diego State, North Carolina winner. I've got Iowa State, even without Keyshawn Gilbert, getting past Lipscomb. Marquette over New Mexico, but I don't love that one. That's just, if I'm being honest, my little homie from Memphis, Cam Jones. I'm picking with my heart there, but New Mexico's been good all season. Donovan Dent's incredible. Michigan State, I've got advancing to face Marquette in the second round. I've got Auburn over Louisville, but I hate that Auburn even has to play that game. That's a mistake by the committee. You shouldn't be asking the number 1 overall seed to play a quality team that's underseeded 70 minutes from its campus, but that's what Auburn has to do. I think the Tigers are good enough to get past it, but they should not be in this game. I've got Michigan past A&M, Ole Miss over Iowa State, Michigan State over Marquette. Then we get to the Sweet 16. I've got Auburn over Michigan. I took Ole Miss over Michigan State. That would be an upset. Chris Beard's second year at Texas Tech resulted in a deep bracket run, got eliminated only by the eventual national champion Villanova. This could be something similar. I've got Auburn beating Ole Miss in the Elite Eight to go to the Final Four.
Okay. So what is just for our listeners keeping track at home and not watching on the old YouTube, what is your biggest upset in the South?
Biggest upset in the South? Now you're just asking pop questions.
Well, it's your bracket. That felt very chalky.
Yeah, I don't think I picked a single first round upset.
Okay, so no surprise there. Do you have anything notable in that Sweet 16? That's
Well,
not.
I've got Ole Miss over Michigan State.
There
That's
you
an
go.
upset.
Okay, so that would be it. That's your biggest upset. Yeah, Beard over Tom
So
Izzo. Okay, I'll run through mine here. In the South, you've got Auburn, obviously moving along. I've got Louisville Creighton. Reminder, that's the first game on Thursday, CBS 12:15. I'm gonna go with the Jays. Shouts to Nada for doing this in real time on the video version here, filling in for audience. It's pretty cool. I'm going UC San Diego over Michigan. I'm gonna take the Tritons. You forking heard me right. I think that because they've got a really good defense that turns teams over, and the Tritons don't turn themselves over. This is a top 40 team. I don't know what this team is going to do with Vlad Golden. I don't know how it handles him, let alone Danny Wolf, but really the way that Golden operates in that offense, that is going to be a problem. But UC San Diego, here we go. I'm going to give this a go. You know there's no chance in hell Parrish was going to try and say this dude's name on the podcast, but I got it down. They got a guard, 6'6" senior, Anawaniwa Tate Jones. He is going to – Michigan has a good backcourt. Aniwaniwa Tate Jones will be the best guard on the floor in this game. I think he's going to.
I hope that don't show up in a shot sheet on. I don't need that in a shot sheet.
You're in trouble.
Buddy, you get handed those shot sheets long enough, there ain't nothing you can't talk around.
All right, there we go. Aniwaniwa Tate Jones. This is a trendy 12 over 5. I'm going to take the Tritons. Not only that. Go ahead and move along the Bulldogs in that lower. Yeah, there you go. Gotti. Nada. Yale over UC San Diego. Yale over Texas A&M. Texas A&M can't shoot. It's the only top 4 seed that did not win a conference tournament game in this year's tournament. And James Jones has done this twice before. I'm going to take him again. Give me Yale. Moving on down. So here's the problem with doing this right now. I'm taking San Diego State to beat Ole Miss if San Diego State beats Carolina. If Carolina wins, I will take Ole Miss. But for the purposes here and now, I am having the Aztecs. I think every year except one, a first 4 team has made it minimally to the second round. I will have the Aztecs doing that. If it's Carolina, I will take Ole Miss in that situation. I've got Iowa State over Lipscomb. I know Cyclones fans, you're shocked to discover that. Give me in an awesome battle with Cam Jones and Donovan Dent. I will take the Lobos. I will take Richard Pitino and New Mexico to get that done. And then I've got Michigan State moving along. Scoop on back up here. I will have Auburn over Creighton. And I took Creighton to beat Louisville in a de facto road game. The Jays were not given any favors, but I've got Auburn moving along and not having to play Louisville in that situation. And then I will go, you forking heard me right, Tritons over Yale. In the first year of this program's eligibility to make the NCAA tournament, I got them into the Sweet 16 and being one of the 2 or 3 biggest stories of the entire tournament by the time we get to Sunday night. Bottom half, Iowa State over San Diego State. They don't have Keyshawn Gilbert. I'm going to take Iowa State to the Sweet 16 regardless of opponent. And then I'll have Michigan State over New Mexico. Give me Auburn, Nada, to get into the Elite 8 and beat UC San Diego. I will take Michigan State to get past Iowa State and get to the Elite 8. And then I will have Auburn making the Final 4. By the way, Auburn, North Carolina, Iowa State, and who am I missing here? Auburn, North Carolina, Iowa State, Michigan State. They were all in Maui. This is the Maui bracket. All those teams were out there. I saw them earlier this year. Give me the Tigers to emerge from the South. What are we thinking on the West?
All right. Well, hey, first off, you think this outfit pays for itself?
No.
Okay. Then we have to pay some bills.
Okay.
Nada, let's get a word from our partners.
Brackets are back. Play CBS Sports Bracket games for a chance to win a new SUV and a trip to the 2026 Final Four. Get the CBS Sports App now to play.
Okay, before we move on to the West Regional, we got to pay some bills for real, and we got to play Stay or Hit. And that's Stay or Hit brought to you by Chumba Casino. Are you ready to play Stay or Hit? Brought to you by Chumba Casino?
I've never been more ready, and I promise hit the right buttons this time.
All right. What we're going to do here, Stay or Hit, presented by Chumba Casino, is I am going to ask you about the South region that we just discussed. And I'm going to name teams, and you're going to tell me which one is a bigger threat to the number 1 seed in the South Regional in your mind. Yeah. I'll name 2 teams. You tell me which is the bigger threat to Auburn in the South region.
Okay.
Our starting place is Louisville.
Yes.
Do you want to stay on Louisville or hit and get Creighton?
See, I am okay. All right. I'm going to.
I'll stay.
Now, I picked Creighton, but if you're asking me if either of those teams play them, I think Louisville is the bigger threat because they're going to have the home. They're going to have the home court advantage.
Okay, well, that's not going to get confusing for anybody.
Nope.
Do you want to stay on Louisville, or do you want to hit and get Ole Miss?
I suggest you hit, sir.
I actually pump fake there, but I think I'd take Mississippi, but it's close. It's close.
Do you know how aggravated people get that you won't say Ole Miss?
I do say Ole Miss. And Chris Walker in studio last night also said Mississippi.
Did he really?
He did, yes.
That's it. But I need a Ole Miss. You're trying to put a D on there.
I've never tried to put a D on Ole Miss.
I hear a D.
Ole Miss. Does that help you? Ole Miss?
Yes, Ole Miss.
Ole
That's
Miss.
what I want you should call them Ole Miss. Do you want to stay on Ole Miss?
Yes.
Do you want to stay on Mississippi?
There we go.
University of Mississippi. Do you want to stay with the SIP? Or do you want to hit and get Michigan?
I suggest you hit, sir.
I would take Michigan in that situation. I think Michigan is a bigger threat to Auburn than Ole Miss.
Do you want to stay? Now that we've got Ole Miss out of the way.
Yeah.
Do you want to stay on Michigan or do you want to hit and get Iowa State?
I'll stay.
I'll stay. Iowa State doesn't have Keyshawn Gilbert.
I heard about that.
Yeah. No Keyshawn Gilbert. That's a problem. Sorry.
Okay.
This is an Iowa State team that was up 17 to Auburn earlier this season in Maui. Couldn't hold on. Keyshawn Gilbert was available in that game. And not only was he available, his parents were in the building. I know because the night before I had dinner next to them. I met the Gilberts. Great people, but not available. So again,
I'll stay
on Michigan.
All right. We got rivals here. This has turned out nicely.
Someone's pointing out in the chat that I've hit on two teams that I have losing earlier in the tournament.
Yes. I noticed that myself, and I'm not even really paying attention.
But that's different framing. Keep it going.
Hey, as somebody who talks with nuance, just trust me when I tell you, it doesn't work.
Nope, doesn't matter.
You can explain exactly what you're doing, and I will actually understand the point you're making because I'm listening to you and I understand what you're doing. Just trust me. Everybody else
podcast has come a long way then. So
everybody's just going to call you an idiot. All right. I know you start trying to get nuance on a podcast. It does not work. I've tried it so many times. It does not work. You just got to, you got to scream one thing really loudly or another thing really loudly. But if you try to get nuance, people get lost. You ready for this? This is going to work out nicely. Do you want to stay on Michigan or do you want to hit and get Michigan State?
I suggest you hit, sir.
I would take Michigan State at this point. 3 weeks ago, I probably would have given you the Wolverines in this situation, but not just because of the 2 seed, but everything Michigan State does, with the exception of shooting the long ball, I would give them. There's a reason they're the biggest threat to Auburn in this region. So the selection committee and Norlander agree the biggest threat to Auburn in the South, it should be Michigan State. That was the Stay or Hit segment brought to you by Chumba Casino. Ready to dive into some excitement? Chumba Casino is where it's at. It's free to play, so just jump right in and explore over hundreds of social casino-style games with fresh new releases every week. Play anytime, anywhere, and enjoy free daily login bonuses and an amazing welcome offer. Let's go to the West Regional now. That's where Florida is the number 1 seed. You want me to run you through it? Oh, I've got it all figured out. I know exactly how this is going to go. Let me tell you.
Let's hear it. Okay, I got Florida winning its first round game over Norfolk State. Should be no problem there. We will get Florida, UConn in the round of 32 after UConn knocks out Oklahoma. I've got Memphis beating Colorado State. I hate the Tyrese Hunter situation, but I don't know if you know, I live in Tennessee, Memphis area, specifically, not Colorado. I don't gain anything from picking against the Tigers and having to walk around this place. So I will take Penny Hardaway's 5 seed to get past Colorado State. I don't expect Tyrese Hunter to be available for that game. We'll see. Maryland, I've got getting past Grand Canyon. Drake over Missouri. This would be an upset. Does that surprise you? I mean, none of this should surprise you. That's a stupid way to ask it.
It surprises me. I don't even know what you asked me. What is it?
Well, like it shouldn't surprise you because you could just be like, well, no, Drake's, here in the predictive metrics and Missouri's here in the predictive metrics. So it doesn't surprise me. Missouri has a 6.5 point favorite over Drake. Seemed like a big number to me.
I'd agree. That's a little big to me. I would have guessed it at like 4.5 or so. Yeah, a little big.
I don't like laying
Mark Mitchell's supposed to play in that game, wasn't available in the SEC tournament. Think he's going to return for the Tigers.
Missouri has lost 4 of 5. Great season for Dennis Gates, obviously, but they have lost 4 or 5. And I wouldn't, if I were Missouri, want to lay 6.5 to a team that's won 30 games and multiple power conference programs are trying to hire their coach, probably. I've got Drake over Missouri. Texas Tech advancing. I've got Kansas over Arkansas in the John Calipari Bill Self matchup, and then Rick Pitino, St. John's into the round of 32. So I've got Florida, UConn. I'm going to take Florida to get past UConn. The dream of going back to back for the Huskies, I think, ends right there. I took Memphis over Maryland. This is before it became increasingly clear that Tyrese Hunter is probably not going to play. I'm not somebody who changes my bracket. I'm locked into it. I'll take Memphis to get to the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2009. Texas Tech over Drake, St. John's over Kansas, Florida over Memphis in the Sweet 16 to get to the Elite Eight. I've got St. John's over Texas Tech, and then I got St. John's in Florida in the Elite Eight, and I took the Red Storm, the Big East outright champs, Big East tournament champs. I've got Rick Pitino in San Antonio at the age of 72 with a Final Four team from the Big East.
Reinforce that. Why St. John's? But beyond Rick Pitino, that's the biggest factor, obviously. You don't have Michigan State going. They have to face Auburn. That's a better team. Michigan State's bad from 3. St. John's is bad from 3. St. John's is number 1 defense in the country. Michigan State's one of the best teams. So why not MSU, but why St. John's instead? Because you could make the case that St. John's actually has the tougher 1 seed to face given the state of both teams right now.
I think St. John's has the better best player in RJ Lewis, might have this better second best player in Kadari Richmond. Excellent defensively, just wins. Outright Big East champions, Big East tournament champions, all-time great coach. Barely lost. And when they did, barely. Like, just nobody ran them off the court all year long. There is nothing we've seen at any point in this season that suggests a game's going to get away from St. John's. Games don't get away from them. I don't love the lack of three-point shooting. That has been an issue all season long, but it is not an issue that has prevented them from being a 30-win team on Selection Sunday. 30-4, the 4 losses by a total of 7 points with one of the greatest coaches of all time and the reigning Big East Player of the Year and Big East Tournament Most Outstanding Player. Number 1 defense in America. I wish they shot it better from 3. I think they can still win a national championship. Not doing it.
All right, fair enough. By the way, it's a tradition for me to give you the tip times and channels here. I let you down in the South. I won't let you down moving forward here in the West. Florida, Norfolk State. That is a Friday game, 6:50 TNT. I've got Florida winning, obviously. UConn, Oklahoma is going to follow that in Raleigh. It's a TNT game, approximately 9:25. I'm going UConn in this spot. Hard for me to see a Dan Hurley coach team, even the one that's been up and down. Oklahoma was a bubble team like a minute and a half ago, and this team's on the 9 line now. It's not egregious, but surprising to me that a team that, among other things, they win 6-12. Conference record isn't obviously a criterion there, but surprising. I will go with UConn. Jeremiah Fears, though, for Oklahoma, if you're not familiar, is an absolute bucket that has fun potential. In Seattle, it will be 2 Eastern, Memphis and Colorado State getting it going. That game being on Friday on TBS. I'm going to go Rams because of no Hunter. Nick Clifford has been on one. I think he's averaging, I did the numbers in studio over the weekend. I want to say he's at like almost 26 points, 8 boards, 5 assists over his past 6 games. He's been incredible. Maybe even like the past 8 or 9 games. I'm taking both 12 over 5s here. 1, I think it's going to happen, but 2, one of these 2 trendy ones has got to hit, right? So I will go with Nico Medved to continue. That'll be 11 straight wins if CSU gets it done in Seattle. And then also in Seattle after that game on TBS around 4:35, that's going to be Maryland against Grand Canyon. Maryland is in the West. So Maryland has to fly to Seattle. If it gets to the Sweet 16, it has to come back east and then fly again out to San Francisco. And this was a 4 seed. Just not great, but this is what's going to happen when you have a West where most seasons you're not going to have 4 teams Mountain West time zone and further to the left that qualify. So usually there's going to be at least one, if not 2 teams that unfortunately get shoehorned in there. And the travel is the travel. But that's why I'm surprised they shipped the Terps all the way out to Seattle.
Let me ask you a question real quick. That's a Friday game, correct?
That is a Friday game. Yes.
So then they play again Sunday. I mean, at that point, you don't come back. You stay out there, right?
Yeah, you're probably right, because I'm looking at this, and does San Francisco have Thursday, Saturday?
Yeah, they're not coming back home.
I'm looking. Hold on. 27. Yeah, that is correct. Yes, San Francisco is Thursday, Saturday. They will not come back home. They're going to stay out west if they win. That's actually the way that's, and I don't know if Willard's wired like this. Some coaches get super superstitious on stuff like that, and they don't want to, they don't want to attempt that stuff. But you kind of need to. You need to pack to prepare for if you make the Sweet 16, even if you think you're jinxing in the process. I will have the Terps over Grand Canyon. Not a lot of buzz for Grand Canyon in the 13/4 there. Understandably so. Maryland's just that crab 5's awesome. In Wichita, these games are on Thursday, 7:35 True TV, Mizzou and Drake. Man, they put Mizzou Drake on True TV. Drake is super duper trendy. And I also have the Bulldogs winning with Ben McCollum. This is one of those situations where I've just accepted my fate here. I've taken Drake. My son, by the way, has Drake in the Final Four. He has taken Drake to the Final Four.
That sounds a little too OV-ho for me.
Yeah, that's don't ask me why. I haven't even talked. Honestly, I haven't even talked to him about it, but I said he's got some bold and zesty ones.
He might be OV-ho. You might be raising an OV-ho.
Houston, 1 seed Duke, 1 seed Auburn, and 11 seed Drake. Kind of love it.
You could be raising OV. You could be raising a Drake fan. You could be the leader of You could be the leader of an OV-ho household. Do you want to be the leader of an OV-ho household?
I do not. I will not, and it is not happening. I will have Drake winning this game, though, ready to be wrong. Oh, and another thing with my bracket, I'm not going to change a pick. This is going to be a first for me. It's not easy for me, but I made these on Sunday night, and I'm just going to accept it for the first time ever. I'm going to not change a pick. I'm just accepting it. What it is. So what I'm reading to you here, you saw me say on TV if you were watching on CBS Sports HQ. Next game in Wichita, 10-10 tip on Thursday, approximately Texas Tech versus UNCW. I will have Grant McCaslin's team moving along. If you listened or when you listened to the show from earlier today, I noted that McCaslin and Ben McCollum at Drake, they're actually super duper close friends. McCollum's never even coached in the tournament, and now he might have to face his best friend in the second round. That's a wild plot twist. They got to win the games, though. Providence, where I will be on Thursday, 7:10 CBS, Kansas versus Arkansas, Self versus Calipari. I will have Kansas winning this game. Man, just... It's such a good matchup because anything feels possible in this one. It really does. Anything on the table feels possible. And then the nightcap in Providence at the Dunk will be St. John's Omaha on CBS around 9:45. I will have St. John's moving along. All right, let's keep it going here with the West. I will have Florida over UConn, getting that done. Did these two teams, by the way, I was thinking when we were talking earlier. Let me check this real quick. Did these two teams not meet in the 2014 Final Four? They did. It was the national semis. I thought that was the case. So these teams met all of 11 years ago. UConn won that game 63-53. This game will be much more high scoring than that one. I will have Maryland over Colorado State in the top half of the West. And then the bottom, Drake versus Texas Tech. I've got Ben McCollum getting the best of Grant McCaslin. I'm going to take the Bulldogs to continue their winning ways and be a 32-3 team and be right there with UC San Diego as one of the best stories of the tournament through the first weekend. And then I will have Rick Pitino getting past Bill Self and moving along. As I do this in real time, if anyone in the chat knows, feel free dropping in on this. Has Pitino ever coached against Self? Am I missing something obvious here? Have they done it like 7 times and I can't remember it? If someone in the chat can look that up, I'd be curious if Pitino and Self have actually coached against each other ever.
It would just seem almost impossible for them not to have at some point, but nothing pops into my head.
I know. I'm sure it's happened, but I don't remember it when it would have happened. I'm just curious if these two have ever met. We know Pitino and Calipari met 2012 Final Four. That's a Cal win. They met 96 Final Four. That's a Pitino win. They met in the Sweet 16, and that was a Cal win. They've already met 3 or 4 times in the tournament. I know that.
All right.
I don't know about Self and Pitino, period.
I just found something here.
What do you got?
A Reddit thread that says today will be the first ever matchup between Bill Self and Rick Pitino.
Boom. Okay.
So
When?
it looks
When though? When
like
was the Reddit thread? When
it
did they
would
do
have
it?
been a Kansas Iona game.
Kansas Iona. Okay, there we go.
November 2021 would have been the first time Rick and Bill ever coached against each other.
Okay, so there we go. Good stuff. Real-time research. I love it on the pod. Florida versus Maryland in San Francisco. I'm going to have a 1 seed going down for the Elite Eight, and this is going to be the one. This is a reminder, by the way, every year. I'm in the process of doing this. I hope to finish it tonight. I publish this huge story of nuggets, stats, facts, trends, a whole bunch of stuff. And within that, you're going to see stuff about the win rates and loss rates of 1 seeds and 2 seeds and making the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight and the bracket. Dig into that. I know it's hard to do when you fill out your bracket. It is extremely unlikely that all the 1s and 2s are going to make the Sweet 16. I think it's only happened like 2 times in the past 20 plus years. And getting all the 1s to the Elite Eight rarely happens. So I will have Maryland on the strength of its Crab 5 pulling off the upset there. I'm not overly confident in it. I'm just trying to pick one. And that was the one that, frankly, I thought had maybe the best chance there. Todd Golden waiting to win his first game as a head coach in the NCAA tournament. He's obviously going to get that done. How many will he get? I will have St. John's over Drake. And then, so that is Maryland, St. John's, all red Elite Eight situation there. GP and I are in agreement. I guess we are 2 for 2 in agreement on Final Fours right now, because you've got Auburn, I've got Auburn, you've got St. John's. I do have Rick Pitino and St. John's moving along. I asked for GP for his reason. I'm going to give you mine as well. Part of it's the losing and the lack thereof, only 7 points total with 4 losses. It is the defense. This team is relentless. It is also the fact that St. John's multiple times this season has faced significant deficits against good opponents in the second half and found ways to overwhelm teams, wear them down, and just pull down the rope. You're coming back down to us. You're getting right there in the mud. They've done this time and time again. The tournament can be a different beast. This is Pitino. He knows how to coach in this tournament. Team will be well-conditioned. Zuby Ejiofor has been awesome. I like the Johnnies to go from Providence to San Francisco to San Antonio.
So we both have Auburn and St. John's in the Final Four coming out of the left side of the bracket. Is that right?
Yes. We're back to our old ways. I just said that 47 seconds ago.
I know. I was repeating for emphasis.
Okay. Because you said you listened to what I say on the show. So
you must not know how to repeat for emphasis. That's also OVO behavior on your behalf.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes. I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot throughout this mega preview.
You want to do another stayer hit? Let's go.
I'm all out of stayer hits for today.
Okay.
Buddy, it took everything I had to come up with that on the fly. East Regional. That's where Duke is the number 1 seed. We'll get to that next. But first, I don't mean to catch you off guard. I don't mean to pump fake you. Let's get away. Let's get rich.
Really?
Let's get word from our
promise?
Yes.
Guys, can you feel it? Legends were born here. History was made here. These are hallowed grounds.
Hallowed grounds? The NCAA squad room?
Well, I wasn't talking about that, but I was talking about Augusta National.
All right. It's finally time for the Masters. I hear it's a tradition unlike any other.
I think you could have got a sushi bite during that one.
I could have. I don't have it. I don't need it. I could have downed a whole piece of sushi. People were worried. They're like, was that sushi just sitting out for hours? It wasn't. I put it. We have refrigerators at the offices in Stamford, and I was good to go. But yeah, good point on you. Yeah.
Just some news that has come across as we've been talking, because we just talked about the West Regional and Memphis and the Tyrese Hunter news. Penny Hardaway just met with the local media and said at this point, the quote is wishful thinking for Tyrese Hunter to play again this season. Wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound good. Tiger's probably going to be without him. Let's go to the East Regional. That's where Duke is the number 1 seed. Needless to say, I've got Duke advancing out of the round of 64, regardless of who the Blue Devils play. They're waiting on a winner of a first 4 game. Mississippi State over Baylor. I've got Oregon over Liberty, Arizona over Akron. This is where my upsets start to pick up. VCU over BYU in the round of 64. This VCU team, comes from the A10. I get it. Not a great seed based on resume stuff. But top 30 at KenPom. Max Scholga was gone to Villanova. Got in the transfer portal, committed to Villanova, NIL. I talked to Ryan Odom because I saw VCU at the Veterans Classic back in November, and I was just sort of picking his brain about Scholga. And Like, he was very upfront about it. How did we get Max Shulga back? It's not because he missed the Siegel Center. It's not because he loved being a Ram. I mean, all that stuff is true, I'm sure. But what did they actually have to do to get him back? Money. They had to go secure NIL funds and get it done. And he was very appreciative of his support system, boosters, administration, all of that they put him in a position. Like, if you want to keep this thing as one of the best programs in the country operating out of the power conference structure, we've got to spend money. It comes with a cost. And they were able, that's how they got Max Shulga back to school. My point is, he would have started at Villanova this year in the Big East had he left. Joe Bamasile's a power conference player too. So VCU is a conference champion and conference tournament champion from a league that isn't under the power conference label, but they're a little bit like Memphis in the sense they got power conference players playing in a non-power conference league. I like that VCU team. I've got them getting past BYU. Wisconsin over Montana. I've got St. Mary's over Vanderbilt and Alabama over Robert Morris, whether or not Grant Nelson plays or not. Back up to the top. Duke over Mississippi State, Arizona over Oregon in a matchup of former Pac-12 schools. I've got VCU over Wisconsin. I'm going to continue to ride the Rams. Alabama over St. Mary's. I've got Duke over Arizona. And then I've got VCU over Alabama in a battle of places Anthony Grant used to coach, I guess. I do have Duke getting past VCU, but I've got the A-10 champions in the Elite Eight, and then I've got the 1 seed Duke Blue Devils picking up Cooper Flag somewhere along the way, advancing to the Final Four for the first time under John Shire.
I knew you'd take Duke. Not surprised by that. Do you buy the notion that Duke has by far the easiest path of all the ones? I feel like that's somewhat true, but it kind of discounts Arizona's potential. And I know, like, people that pick the bracket every year, that you say Arizona in the tournament, they're like, yeah, the team that never makes the Final Four. I understand, like, the Arizona reputation in March. I get that. But I think it kind of shrugs them off a little bit. People just riding Duke into the Sweet 16, and I will as well. I did, no resistance at all till the Elite Eight minimally. BYU, Bama, Wisconsin can score. I don't know. You think it's?
I mean, I don't.
You think it's easy for Duke?
I think it can be easy. I don't know that it will. I mean, I could see them getting into it's almost become a joke. Like when I say stuff like this, it's like when you try to say obvious things seriously to make them sound smart.
Mm-hmm.
I was about to do it, but I do think this is important, even if it's obvious. Like, it's just a 40-minute game. Like, what would be so shocking if you looked up and Chris Jans had Duke in a fist fight 28 minutes in? Like,
not caring a single thing about who wins the game. That's why I love this tournament. I root for stuff like that. I want to see a 1 seed with 7.5 minutes to go down by 2 and like, hell yeah, dial the hell in. Let's see what happens here. That's what I live for in the tournament. So, because no one's talking about that scenario. It might not well happen. How about this? Yes or no? True. Yes or no? Duke finishes. If Duke makes, how do I want to frame this? Yes or no? Duke wins all 4 games in its region by double digits. Yes or no? I will say no.
I would say no.
Close game.
I would say no. I would say no, just because it's unusual. But and by the way, we're talking about Mississippi State Duke. Like, Baylor could beat Mississippi State, and then it's all moot, right?
Yep.
There's nothing shocking. Keep in mind, Mississippi State has been playing teams like Duke all season. It's been a minute. It's been a minute since Duke's played a team like Mississippi State.
Yep.
Or at least they haven't played too many teams like Mississippi State. Tough, been through the wars, got a little guard in Josh Hubbard who can pop off. Like, if I just told you, Norlander, it's Sunday, Cooper Flag's back, there's 9 minutes left in the game between Mississippi State and Duke, it's a 1-possession game, and Josh Hubbard's got 27.
Hell yeah, give it to me. I'll take it right now.
Like, none of that is crazy, right? So I'll say this. I don't know if Duke has the easiest path of the 1 seeds, because I don't know what the path is going to be. But I always think it's helpful to just flip the question around and ask it from a different angle. If you were a 1 seed and you could pick you could just take your 1 and place you in any of these regions, and if you're Duke, you can be Auburn. If you're Auburn, you could be Florida. If you're Florida, you could be Houston. If you're Houston, you could be Auburn. It's up to you. I think Duke would stay where it's at, and I think every one of these schools would be willing to trade with Duke.
Geography, not including geography, obviously.
It's not including geography, sure. But like the possible pass, all of the stuff you include in that, I think Duke theoretically should – that's the most manageable to me. I got into a conversation with somebody the other day about this. Like when you're debating, let's just say Hubert Davis as North Carolina's coach. Because one of the things I've said a few times is he one of the top 10 coaches in America? Because if you don't think he is, you probably don't have the right coach. Because at North Carolina, you should have one of the best coaches in America. You're one of the best jobs in America. So somebody sort of flipped that around and put it to me like this. They said, okay, GP, let you answer these questions honestly. I said, all right, what's up? Indiana job's open right now. That's right. If North Carolina said you can have Hubert Davis, you want him, just take him. Would they hire him? Let's do this exercise with you.
Okay.
What do you think?
No.
Forget the
answer
okay.
is no.
Virginia.
No.
Villanova.
No.
Okay, so like now we're getting some answers here, maybe, right? I think take that same type of approach with the question you're presenting, and I think it's easier to get the answer. Would Duke trade spots with any other 1C? Geography not included in the conversation. I think Duke would say, no, buddy, I'm good. I'll sit right here. We got 16 teams in this region. I feel like this is the one we can come out of easiest. I wouldn't move.
I think Houston's got a case, and if you were flipping on Duke would have potentially Clemson, which it's beaten, Illinois, which it beat by 43. I think you can make a case for the Midwest. The only thing is, do you get Gonzaga or not? But I hear the point the whole way. That's some intriguing thought there. All right, I'll go East region. Now to fire up that bracket for our YouTube audience here. Here are your games. Duke versus the winner of American versus Mount St. Mary's. That is a CBS game, 2:50 on Friday. Shouts to Chip Patterson, who will be making an appearance or two on the pod in the coming weeks, as he does every year in March. We love Chip's energy. We love his knowledge. We love his passion for college hoops. He will be on site in Raleigh to cover that pod for us for CBSSports.com. I obviously have Duke moving along. Prior to the Duke game, the first tip of Friday from Raleigh will be Mississippi State and Baylor on CBS at 12:15. I have gone Mississippi State here. I pulled the Costanza on this one. I wanted, and I didn't do this with most of my picks. I actually wanted to take Baylor, but often when the team I want to take in the 8-9, the other one wins. So I went opposite. I'm sure a lot of people listening can identify with that. Moving down, we head to Oregon, Liberty, and Arizona versus Akron. These games are, let me just check real quick. My printer thing cut off here. These games are on Friday, and these games are these are in Seattle. That's what I thought. Okay, so these are also Seattle games. These are the late ones. So Oregon, Liberty might be the last tip of the day, around 10:10 Eastern. I'm going to take Oregon. Liberty I did a thing on them earlier. Liberty might have the shortest. Tell you real quick here. I want to inform our audience on this. Liberty they're the worst at something in the field. They are the worst free throw shooting team in the field. 65.4%. The Liberty Flames, 28.6 overall, ranked top 70 in the metrics. Done a nice job, but I'm going to take the Ducks in this one. Jackson Shellstad leading the way. Nate Biddle as well. Give me the Ducks to win that one. Arizona versus Akron. 7:35 tip on True TV coming out of Seattle. I will go Arizona here. John Gross has been the coach of teams that have won in the first round of the NCAA tournament before. This is now his fourth NCAA tournament level team he has had at Akron. Really, really good coach. Akron gets up and down the floor. This game has if Akron can, and it's a good shooting team, if they can hit their shots, this game actually has fair potential to be, all right, it's 79-77 with 3.5 to go kind of deal. Like we could have both teams hit the 80s. I will go Arizona. KenPom actually projected a 90-76 win for Arizona. I can't go that far, but yeah, there's some good potential here. Next two, we scoot on down in the East. We've got BYU, VCU, and Wisconsin versus Montana. These games are coming to you from Denver. BYU VCU is a 4:05 tip on Thursday on TNT. People in the chat have been talking Cougs here in the past couple of minutes. They're a good 3-point shooting team when the shot, and this is typically true of a lot of teams, but in particular with BYU, they really seem to hit another gear or two when the threes are falling. They do rank top 10 in 2-point percentage. Yegor Demin probably going to be a top 20 NBA pick. I think he's cooled off from what he was in the first month of the season, but Richie Saunders is really, really good. I like Keba Keita down low for BYU. I'm in on them, generally speaking. VCU at 28-6. This is a very good defensive team. Ryan Odom's done a wonderful job. He's the primary candidate at Virginia at this stage. We'll see where and how that goes. But getting Shulga back, yeah, I've seen a lot of split ones on this, but I'm going BYU. Wisconsin, Montana, I'm going Wisconsin without too much hesitation here. Not convinced Wisconsin should have been on the 3 line. I also don't want – I haven't been able to break this down. Why is Wisconsin as a 3 not in Milwaukee? It's not their building. Why are they going to Denver? I don't understand why we're doing that. Regardless, I got Bucky.
They lost. They lost. You didn't hear?
No.
I think the official explanation from the committee was they lost Tucker DeVries in December.
I didn't take that into consideration. Now it all makes sense.
Have.
The Tucker DeVries injury affecting more teams than people realize.
That's right.
I'm checking out how long is the drive from Missoula to Denver? All right, trivia time.
Okay.
Missoula, University of Montana's in Missoula, right?
Yeah, it should be. If not, they should move it there.
Yeah, it's in Missoula. Just making sure. All right, trivia time. See if you
Okay.
can get it within. How about within 2 hours?
Okay.
How long is the drive? Chat, don't give it away. How long is the drive from Missoula to Denver?
Oh, that's 11 hours.
I'm going to give it to you. If you leave Missoula right now, according to Google Maps, doesn't look like traffic's too big of an issue, except, well, you get around the Boulder area. It looks like there might be some construction. 13 hours, 6 minutes. You said 11?
I said 11. I think I said 11 hours.
2 hours. I said, can you get it within 2?
I know. I said 11 hours, and then you cut me off. I was going to say 11 hours and 7 minutes.
That's not true.
That's what I was going to say.
Like you're taking 25. You're going 90, obviously. You're going 90 east. Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
And you're going down
You go
25.
east.
I've actually, we do
Yeah,
not
but I
do
know
sidetracked, but I've at some point in my life, especially with, I just want to go driving in this part of the country. I just want to drive through Colorado, Wyoming, South Dakota, Montana, Idaho. I just want to drive it, just do a little out west.
Yeah, you would take 93 east unless you know a shortcut. You ever still meet somebody? Because all my life, people, you'd be telling them you're going somewhere like, yeah, we're driving down to Florida, going down to the beach for a little while. And everybody would always have a shortcut. They would take pride in telling you about their shortcut. Yeah. And every once in a while, I'll still meet somebody in the year 2025, and I'll be like, yeah, I guess we're going to leave the house around so-and-so, and we'll get there around so-and-so, and we'll just meet you guys there. And they'll say, well, I know a shortcut. And I'm like, how do you think you're smarter than my car?
Well, not smarter than this.
Yeah. Like, you know what? You're not smarter than my iPhone. All right. I love people who still think they know things that our phones don't know. Like they know this.
These days.
They know a way to get somewhere that my car doesn't know. Makes me laugh.
Well, there's no shortcut from Missoula to Denver. I'll tell you that much.
That's tough. That's a tough thing to learn.
You're driving around the big old Rockies. Okay. That's what you got to be doing there. Anyway, I've got Wisconsin over Minnesota in a 3-14. Actually, as on that topic here, GP, which 3-14 do you think has the best chance of being the closest game? And we still got to get to Kentucky-Troy, which my kiddo has Troy winning. So Kentucky-Troy, Wisconsin-Montana, Iowa State-Lipscomb, Texas Tech, UNCW. There's usually one 3-14 that's got a little bit of tension to it. Which one do you think is the most likely to be the closest game?
Iowa State-Lipscomb.
No Keyshawn Gilbert's going to do it?
Yeah, just missing a player. They can. Yeah, I could see that game being closer than you'd think it would be.
I would say,
I just wonder what that does mentally to a team when you've lost somebody who's very important to you. Like, does it feel, I don't know. I guess in a single elimination tournament, you can just be like, hey, we got to go out and win one game. It feels like in a 7-game series, it'd be much more deflating because you obviously got to get more accomplished in a 7-game series than a single elimination tournament. I just wonder what that does to Iowa State. And they've been kind of, I don't know, like, I wonder what that does mentally to them. Do they feel like, I don't know. We'll see. I won't be surprised if that game's close.
I would only say, and I know it's a conference game and it was weird, but like Wisconsin lost at home to Penn State. And No one's talking about Montana beating Wisconsin. That's not they're not even talking about it in Missoula. Not happening. Maybe Jeff Ament, the former Ion College basketball podcast guest, is thinking.
I bet he's talking about it.
Big Montana fan. He'll be dialed in, by the way. All right, final two in the East region first round. We've got St. Mary's, Vandy, and we've got Bama, Robert Morris. I don't think did I mention this on the show yet? I've completely forgotten. Do you realize that Alabama, they're probably going to win, but they got to play a 15 seed. Robert Morris is like less than 2 hours away from Cleveland. Like, I'm not saying they're taking it over like Louisville fans, but this is a byproduct of having your best SEC teams. They all got to play in 4 different regions, and at a certain point, they got to keep true to the seed. So Bama's flying up there, and they're going to be.
I'm less offended by that because it's a 15 and a 2, and I say this respectfully, but it's Robert Morris, not the University of Louisville, that can fill up its own 20,000 seat arena 70 minutes away. I was way more bothered by the possibility of Auburn having to play Louisville and Lexington than Alabama having to play Robert Morris in Cleveland.
I want to say there was one. I'm not going to be able to pull it here, but I want to say that this did happen in the past. Maybe it was pre-COVID. There was either like a 15. I think it was a 15 or a 14 that got like unusually close for its first round game. I can't remember. If you remember, drop it in the chat or drop it in the YouTube comments.
Well, one of the more famous, there's some famous examples of this deeper in the bracket. Duke having to play South Carolina in South Carolina.
The Zion year? No,
that's
not 2017 because South Carolina went to the Final Four. Right.
That's right. There's that one. There's Memphis as a 1 seed having to play UCLA in California in a regional final. I was there for that one. So sometimes this stuff does happen. And I don't want to say every time I think it's wrong because some of it's just unavoidable. That's what a committee member would tell you. You just can't plan that deep into the bracket. But I would, like, if I were adding bracket principles, we're never going to set up a situation where a 1 seed is playing a possible road game, de facto road game in the round of 32. And we're never going to set it up where if the bracket plays 2 seed, when we get to the Elite 8, the 1 seed will have to play a theoretical road game against the 2 seed. We would just avoid those things. So I'm not going to have in that year, 2006, Memphis going to California to play an Elite 8 game against UCLA when Memphis is the 1 seed. I would avoid I'm not trying to avoid everything because you can't. Yeah. But there are some obvious things where I think
they think about that, and you still run into logistical challenges because for the most part they want to stay true to the seed more than the geography, and so sometimes in random years you can't avoid it.
You can change the principles and avoid it. You know what I would say? I would rather abandon geography than have a 1 seed playing a road game in the Elite 8.
That might force you to change a team off its seed line, though. You'd be good.
Because
you don't know. There's no guarantee they get there.
I know, but I'm looking for things to avoid. I want to avoid a situation where we could, like the most likely Elite 8 matchup in any region, theoretically. I understand betting markets and all that, but you'll get the point. Should be 1 versus 2. I'm going to always avoid a 1 having to play a 2 near the 2's campus or in the 2's state. We're just not going to do that. I know when we get there, the coach of the 1 seed is going to make a big deal out of it. He's going to scream, this is unfair. We shouldn't be playing this game here. So let's just skip that part. I would change other principles to make sure we could adhere to that one, if that makes sense. But I think we're getting off track.
I agree with what you're saying. Let's just pick the damn game. I just think you're going to still run into this. I think there are too many teams, too many sites. It pops its head up unexpectedly here and there. But I don't disagree with the overall premise.
Well, I mean, I think I don't want to belabor the point, but I think I could go back to that 2006 bracket right now and just make a couple of 2 seed changes, and we don't have the same problem.
Yeah, fair enough. I will have St. Mary's over Vanderbilt. This is going to be wrong, folks. I have not hesitated. I saw it on the bracket. I said St. Mary's immediately, which means I'm going to be wrong here. And then I'll have Bama over Robert Morris. Alabama update we talked about earlier on the show. Grant Nelson probably not going to play in this game, but hopefully available for the second and definitely available for the second weekend. I then have Duke beating Mississippi State. I have Arizona over Oregon. Love that Pac-12 flavor right there, but I'll go with Zona. Not a lot of people writing Oregon, I don't feel like, into the Sweet 16. It would not surprise me at all. Oregon's beaten a lot of good teams this year. I will have BYU over Bucky. I'll have Kevin Young. Although I got a number of coaches that don't have NCAA tournament wins moving on to the second weekend. This is probably not going to work out for your guy. I'll have Alabama over St. Mary's with some hesitation, which doesn't make sense when you see my bracket, but like St. Mary's is good enough to make the second weekend, people. Duke, Arizona, third time in 2 seasons. I will have Duke beating Arizona again. They won out in Tucson earlier this season. And then I've got Alabama playing BYU in the Sweet 16. BYU won the battle for AJ DePanza. This is a recruiting battle game. I've got Alabama winning the head-to-head here. Give me the Tide moving along. I have picked Alabama with the idea that Grant Nelson is going to be pretty capable of being a go, and Mark Sears doing well for himself. And then I will have, not Duke, I have Alabama moving along to the Final Four for a second consecutive season. That's a value play as much as anything else. Duke is going to be such an overwhelming pick in your bracket pool to make the Final Four, and understandably so. They might cruise there. Alabama is the highest scoring team in the country, plays at a super fast pace. If it catches fire, it absolutely can beat Duke. If it is playing right, that's not a long shot whatsoever. So I think there's actually some good value with Alabama there. And if you're seeing elsewhere with, say, Arizona, maybe Wisconsin, I don't know. It's certainly conceivable Duke could get knocked out before the Final Four, and I'm taking a chance there. So right now I've got a 1 and 2 twos before we get to the final region.
All right. We got the Midwest Regional coming up. We're going to bounce through that pretty quickly. First, let's get one more word from our partners. All right, now we're down to the Midwest Regional. That's where Houston is the number 1 seed. I'll run through mine real quick, and then we'll get on with this thing because we are working on a clock here.
Yes.
Houston, I've got obviously advancing out of the round of 64. I love the Brian Baroni story at SIUE, but I think it ends in a first-round loss to Kelvin Sampson. Gonzaga over Georgia to keep that streak of Sweet 16 appearances alive, at least for a couple more days. I've got Clemson getting past Will Wade and McNeese State. Purdue over High Point. I'm still partially Boilermaker. I think that goes without saying. Illinois over the winner of Texas Xavier. I've got Kentucky past Troy. Utah State over UCLA. That would be an upset. And Tennessee getting past Wofford. Going back up, I do have Houston eliminating Gonzaga. That's another one where, as long as we're adjusting bracket principles, I do not think you should ever put North Carolina in the field strictly because of its, and I know they won't say strictly because of, I don't think you should point to their predictive metrics and put them in based on those. But I do think when it comes to seeding, there's some leeway to maybe let you emphasize that a little more, if only to be more fair to the 1 seed. My point is this: I don't love that Houston's got to play a top 10 KenPom team in the round of 32, perhaps. I think that's unfair to Houston. You suggested something the other day that I think I could subscribe to. We're not going to use predictive metrics to put people in the field, but if we have a team that based on results lands in the 8-9 game, or like that's where we think they belong, but they have top 10 predictives, we might just move them into the 7-10 game just to make sure no 1 seed ever stands up and says, why do we have to play a top 10 KenPom team in the round of 32? What do we do to deserve this? Yeah, you would instead be giving it to a 2 seed, and maybe that would be slightly less unfair, but still unfair. But at least then you can tell the 2 seed, well, you should have been a 1 seed and you wouldn't have to deal with this. But you shouldn't be telling 1 seed you don't have to play. You got to play 10 seed. You got to play top 10 KenPom teams in the round of 32. Either way, that's probably what Houston's got to do. I think Houston wins it. Gonzaga's streak of Sweet 16 appearances ends at 9. I've got Clemson over Purdue. Purdue's just been shaky lately. Lots of turnovers, 2-point defensive field goal percentage. I mean, they just get eat up inside the paint almost every game. I've got Clemson past Purdue, Illinois past Kentucky. The injury stuff at some point just becomes an issue for Mark Pope. I've got Tennessee over Utah State, Houston over Clemson, Tennessee over Houston, and then I've got Houston over Tennessee in the Elite Eight, making my Final Four 3 1 seeds and a 2 seed, Auburn, St. John's, Duke, and Houston.
I got someone in the chat saying my picks are too chalky. Dude, I've got UC San Diego, Drake into the Sweet 16. Parrish is going with that. This is the chalk master over here. That's the chalk master. That's what you are. You're the chalk master. All right, let's go here to my picks, and then we'll scoot here in just a minute because we are on a little bit of a time crunch here. Houston, SIUE, Gonzaga, and Georgia. Those games are in Wichita, Kansas. These are Thursday games. Houston, SIUE is a 2 p.m. on TBS, and Gonzaga will follow that against Georgia, 4:35. I think Georgia has a better chance in this game than people realize. That's a big team. Asa Newell, the best NBA prospect on the floor. Gonzaga's got Ryan Nembhard, who leads the country in assists. Graham Ike down low. I obviously have Houston moving along. I'm going with Gonzaga here, but I do think that Mike White's team with Georgia is going to put up a fight. I think this is going to be of all the 8-9s, I actually think this is going to be the closest game. Cue me, I was wrong because it's inevitable. Next two are where I will be on Thursday in Providence. Clemson versus McNeese and Purdue versus High Point. Not, I'm actually going to go this in chronological order. So Purdue High Point is the first game from the dunk on Thursday, 12:40 on True TV. I will go Purdue in this spot, but I do think that High Point has a chance to make this a close game. It is good scoring in the interior. We've talked about Purdue's problems there. Ultimately, I'm going with Purdue. Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman-Wren have been terrific. I'm interested to see how Purdue shows up in this tournament without Zach Edey in the lineup. Don't know if it's really the quality of a 4 seed, but I'll take them to beat High Point. High Point's good, man. A couple of these teams that we're picking to lose, they're going to win, Parrish. That's the damnedest thing. You got to try and identify them. Could well miss. I'll take Clemson beating McNeese. Will Wade's got a solid team. It's not as good as the team last year. Clemson's really good. This is the winningest season in Clemson history, and it hasn't even played in the NCAA tournament yet. 27-6 for Brad Brownell's Tigers. They got a great player named Chase Hunter. I like Clemson to move along. Bottom half of the bracket, you've got Illinois awaiting the winner of Texas versus Xavier, and you've got Kentucky versus Troy. These games are in Milwaukee. Illinois, I think Xavier is going to beat. So, again, in my bracket, I've got Xavier over Illinois. If Texas beats Xavier, I will have Illinois into the second round. But for right now, I have Sean Miller's team moving along and getting the dub over the Illini. And if that doesn't happen, mark me down for Illinois over Texas. I've got Kentucky over Troy. Both of these games are on CBS. Kentucky's at 7:10 on Friday. The Illinois Texas Xavier game is at 9:45. And then in the bottom, you've got UCLA, Utah State, and Tennessee versus Wofford in the 7:10 and the 2:15 game. These games are being played. I'm bringing it up here real quick. These are the Lexington, Kentucky. Of course, these are in Lexington. So Tennessee versus Wofford is 6:50 on TNT on Thursday. UCLA, Utah State, late tip, 9:25 TNT on Thursday. I'm going to go Utah State over UCLA in this one. Jared Calhoun's done a really good job in year one with the Aggies. Tough 7-10 read. Utah State got out to a 19-2 start this season. It's 26-7 now. It can score. It's a really good scoring team. Ian Martinez is a really solid guard. Keep an eye on him. Mason Falslev is also good. He shoots well from deep. UCLA is a bit featureless. Like, it's good defensively. It can turn teams over, which is what its forte is. But if it does not turn you over and get out into some sort of transition opportunity, I actually think they're pretty vulnerable. I'll have Utah State winning there. I've got Tennessee over Wofford. Second round, I will go Houston over Gonzaga, primarily because I don't think that this Gonzaga team, and why I think they're going to have trouble with Georgia, I just don't think it's ultra athletic, and I do like the way that Georgia is comprised and Houston. And oh, by the way, with Houston, I'll just say now, I was going to wait for when we got to our Final Four picks. Houston is the best three-point shooting team in the tournament. Now, normally that's not the case in terms of their three-point prowess, period. They're elite defensively again, and no one has been better from beyond the arc this season of any team in the field than Kelvin Sampson's team. I'll have Houston moving along. I'll take Purdue over Clemson. That, to me, is coin flip city, a 50-50, whatever. I will go with the Boilers. Both these teams made good runs last year. Purdue, the title game. Clemson's made the Elite Eight. I will go with Matt Painter. I have Kentucky moving along to the second weekend. If it's Kentucky versus Illinois, I don't have Illinois in this game, but if it was, I still think I would take Kentucky. That's too funny because I've talked about this on the show. Both these teams have been, what the hell are we going to get right now? And, like, how good is Lamont Butler's shoulder? Like, is he, I know they feel good about it, but is this thing being held together by duct tape and shoelaces? I don't know. I'm just curious on that one. I've got Tennessee getting past Utah State, and I do have Kentucky over Tennessee. Kentucky has beaten Tennessee twice. I said this earlier. Let me just fact check myself in real time, GP, because I think that's the case. It is the case. So Kentucky beat Tennessee twice, beat them a third time. Newsflash, beating the same team 3 times in one season, not as hard as people might make you think on television. So I will have Kentucky moving along, and I will take Houston over Kentucky in the Elite Eight. So my Final Four is Auburn, St. John's, Bama, Houston. That is 2 1s and 2 2s. What's your Final Four? What's your champ, GP?
Auburn, St. John's, Duke, Houston. I've got Auburn and Houston in the national title game. I've got Bruce Pearl's Auburn Tigers as my national champion. And yes, I'm aware that they've lost 3 or 4 heading into this thing. The way I've made sense of it in my head is that they didn't go on that bad stretch until everybody in the world told them you've done enough. Like, we all sat there and told the team very publicly, and I'm not like suggesting Chad Baker Mazzara is like listening to the Eye on College Basketball podcast and is like, well, the ball guy said we're good, so I guess we're good. Like, but it was just sort of out there like, hey man, they've done it. 16 quadrant 1 wins, so far ahead of the pack. They're like a golfer with a 5-shot lead. Their own coach was saying, we're outright SEC champs. I feel like we've done enough. And I agreed with him. I don't think he was speaking out of turn. But like, when you hear that over and over again, I think it's easy to lose focus a little bit. And when everybody's telling you you're good until the tournament, you've locked up everything you can lock up until the tournament, I think it's easy to not be as focused as maybe everybody else is. And then you lose one game to a good team and come home and you think you'll bounce back, but you know, another good team catches you, and then it's Florida and they're playing as well as anybody. I think they are capable of turning it back on. If they don't, they'll be out of this thing. Not early. Keep in mind, they are literally, Auburn, the only team in the country that never lost to a team outside of the top 20 in the net all season, not one.
Yep.
They can't even play a team like the teams that they've lost to until at least the Sweet 16. Now, I know Louisville, inside Rupp, 70 minutes from campus is maybe a different animal, but you look at most of the numbers, Louisville is not the type of team that beat Auburn this season. Auburn won't have to play a type of team that beat Auburn this season until at least the Sweet 16. I'm going to trust that they can turn it back on and win 6 games, but I know they're not the favorite, even though they are the number 1 overall seed.
Auburn has more wins versus the field than any team in the field. It's 19. Second place is Alabama and Tennessee. Obviously, this is no shock to all SEC teams, but Alabama and Tennessee have 17 wins versus the field. Auburn has 19. Bama has played the most games versus teams in the field with 25. Auburn and Tennessee have played 24 apiece. There are 10 teams with 0 wins against the field. They're all single bid leagues, obviously, as you might expect. There's no one of note there. If you like that kind of stuff, again, I'll have a huge story, stats nuggets, if you like to dive into the goodies there. You and my kiddo, by the way, agree. He's got Auburn.
All right.
He's got Auburn. He's got Auburn over Duke there.
All right. We'll be idiots together.
Well, there you go. I have Auburn over St. John's in the Final Four. Just the idea of like Bruce Pearl, Rick Pitino, Nate Oates, and Kelvin Sampson. That's a very, very good quotable Final Four that I've got there. No complaints whatsoever if those 4 coaches are behind the microphones at the dais and on the court down there in San Antonio. I'll take Auburn over St. John's. I'm going to repeat what I said about the SEC tournament, and that fell flat. I've seen Auburn play at its best. I know what this team can be. And I can't shake the feeling that they are going to have a dominant push to the Final Four. Like, personally, and this could be very wrong, I get it. Like, I think Duke's going to look good in this tournament. I don't have him in the Final Four. I think if Auburn and Duke both make the Final Four, I would say Auburn's more likely to have the more impressive showing, higher margin of victory. I think this team's going to turn it on. We'll see, though. I mean, I've been brutally wrong before. I'm ready to do it again. I will have Houston over Alabama. These teams met earlier this season. I'd love, you know what? I want this matchup to happen because I want the Auburn, Houston versus Auburn's my title game. So I have Houston over Bama in the national semis. I want Houston Auburn in the title game because I want the oral history and the retelling of the plane fight that forced the Auburn to plane. This is what changed Auburn's entire season. They got into a little scuffle on the plane. They had to divert, go back, flew back, didn't bring a couple of players with them, and then they turned into the best team in the sport for 3 months. Give me the Auburn versus Houston rematch, and I have the Houston Cougars going back to Texas, getting it done, winning in San Antonio, Kelvin Sampson launching a national championship, and I'm doing it not just because of the defense, and not just because Auburn forces you to play on its terms. It dictates the conversation when you play Houston. It is the 3-point shooting, Milos Usan, LJ Cryer, Emmanuel Sharp, all being knockdown shooters. They stay healthy. They get it done. I've got the Cougs over the Tigers in the national title game. And those are our bracket picks. We actually did this fairly quickly this year. We moved through it relatively quickly. One quick thing, GP. The poll on today's question, we asked our live audience, who are you taking to win the title, the SEC or the field? I will give you the answer, but I want you to try and guess which side won and what the percentage split was.
I would assume the field won because there's an anti-SEC sentiment that exists. People don't like it.
Yes, I think I agree with that. Yeah.
Yes, I would assume the field won. I would take the SEC, but I would assume the field won.
The field did win 62 to 28% to 38%, right? 62 to 38%. So that's actually, that's not that bad. Yeah. I'm taking the field literally because I have Houston, but that's a bigger margin than I would have expected.
So we both have, just to put a bow on this, and then we'll move on. And by move on, I mean get out of here.
Yeah.
If we both have a Houston-Auburn championship game, that would be Kelvin Sampson, Bruce Pearl. Have we ever had a national championship game? What up, Jared Burson? Have we ever had a national championship game between two coaches who were previously fired from power conference jobs or forced to resign?
I think that's happened.
You think that's happened? I don't know.
Good question. I don't know.
Think about once you get fired in the history of the sport, once you get fired from a power conference job, you don't usually get another one.
I'd have to think. I don't know. Maybe it hasn't happened.
Let's look into it.
It's gotta have. This is my projection. So I got it.
Yeah.
So wait, did I have that right? We both have the same final. We have the same final.
I have Auburn Houston. I have Auburn Houston with Auburn
yeah.
winning. You have Auburn Houston with Houston winning.
Yep. Okay.
But it could be two formerly fired power conference coaches, which would be just I bet you that story'd get written by somebody.
Reminder, if you're listening, we're getting out of here, but you can join our Ion College basketball bracket pool on the CBS Sports app at cbssports.com. The link will be in this YouTube video. It will be in this podcast description. And join. You have until, I think, Thursday at like 11:59. Don't wait on it. You will see our picks. Winners get shouts, Paramount Plus subscriptions, all that good stuff. Join up, and can't wait to see how everyone kicks our asses in this, because we are going to be terrible.
I'm going to be great. Everybody deserves to watch Landman. Everybody.
That's right.
And that's how you can do it, by winning a bracket challenge and getting a subscription to Paramount Plus. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Terry Teagle legend. Huck Larnell. Thank you guys once again for watching, listening to the Ion College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, Apple, Spotify. There's more of us than there are of them. That needs to be reflected in the comments. So to that, and we will talk to you again I'm probably in 45 minutes, honestly.
Well, it's not going to be that close. We are going to have podcasts for you, recapping a bunch of tournament action. Just stay subscribed, all that good stuff. We got you covered. Best time of the year is here. That's a show.
All right. Bye-bye.